All right. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Thanks so much for joining us wherever you're watching. As you well know, every Saturday we try to make it a point to give you the goings on in the entertainment industry in our show known only as This Week in Pop Culture, the show that gives you the rundown or catches you up on what's gone down in the past week. And of course, I'm not going to be alone in talking about these said topics. So let me bring on my co-host, none other than Spillman True Heart, aka Spills. What's going on, sir?
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? We back again. We back live. We got graphics. We've got all kinds of stuff. Also, firstly, I
Yes.
gotta say shout
Yes.
outs to
Okay.
my
Shout out.
son. I know he comes out, but today
Yeah.
is his fifth birthday. So shout outs, little man. I know you're
Shout
interrupting
out,
me all
little
the
man.
time.
Shout out.
Yeah, yeah,
Shout out
yeah.
for sure. All right, so 'cause 5 is a big age. It's a big milestone. So shout out to you, man. But shall we dive into some of the topics for
Let's
this
get
week?
it.
Okay,
Let's get
all
it.
right. So the first one we're going to do is going into the world of film and TV, and two stories that I wanted to get into for this week, centered around a little famous horror home as well as some casting news. First, we're going to dive into the poltergeist component of it. So this past Saturday, news dropped via TMZ that the poltergeist home guest from the horror classic is becoming an Airbnb. The Simi Valley, California home, which sold to its new Los Gatos, California investor owner for 100 G's more than its asking price, because it was originally supposed to go for 1.1 million dollars, sold for 1.27 million dollars. Will be transformed into an Airbnb that will replicate the actual Poltergeist film set. So, Stillman, what are your thoughts on this prospect, and would you stay there?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is a surprise to me because I did not realize that this was actually a real house. I thought it was a set. When you look at some of the pieces from the film, like when they zoom out onto the graveyard and stuff, that looked like it was a painting and stuff. So I didn't realize this was a real place. So that's one. Two, no, I'm not living here at all. That's a crazy idea for the things that went on that
Good morning,
set.
Ray.
Well, good morning, Ray. Thanks for the shout out to Mr. Baby. But the things that went on that set are crazy. Like the fact they was using real bodies. You remember they was using real bodies in that movie?
Yeah,
Oh,
supposedly, yeah.
supposedly. And then all of the unfortunate ends that happened to the cast of that film.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
no thanks, ladies and gentlemen. This is a great start to spooky season. But heck no, I'm not living in no house. They moved the headstones. They moved the headstones. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. I don't know about you. I know that that stuff ain't real, but no, I don't like that at all.
So I will say this, and I have some recent, run-ins with someone who was personally involved with this production. None other. I'm gonna give a shout out myself to Mr. Oliver Robbins at TerraCon. If you guys have been following my social media, I was fortunate enough to be able to moderate, at that show, which is a horror convention. And one of the panels that I did do was with Oliver Robbins, who, if you aren't aware, he was the son in that family in Poltergeist all those years ago. And as you said, a lot of unfortunate things that transpired over the course of that film, folks passing away, and then just like really like creepy type of things that, transpired. He actually almost died on set. I don't know if you know that filming, that scene. If people know that film, that scene that he has with the clown, the iconic scene that he has with the clown in his room, when it was wrapping around his
Hmm.
neck, he actually almost, died in that scene. So I don't know if they. I meant to ask him this, in the panel, if they actually used that same take where it actually was in actually happening, because I know a lot of times when when it's something like very drastic like that, because the reaction is, I guess, is authentic, or when someone actually gets something transpires, they typically use that take. I don't know the stipulations on that, but I do know it was in that particular instance, in that scene, that he almost died for his art, so to speak. So,
That's
but
crazy.
in talking about Airbnbs, I'm not a stranger to Airbnbs. When it comes to traveling and being able to stay in them, and I haven't stayed in any recently, but I don't know. Like, I have to second you when we're talking about all of those creepy coincidences, and all the bad like energy that's surrounding that house and what's transpired, on
No
and off the
thanks.
set. Like, nah. And I'm a horror person. Don't get me wrong, I love horror movies, but yeah, that's a bit too much. Like, I want to be able to get a peaceful sleep, and I want to be able to, not have to, worry about anything transpiring, being in that house, and the energy, I guess, that's surrounding that house and what is transpired. So,
The
thank you,
stuff
but
that
no, thank
happened,
you,
yeah, the
no,
stuff
thank
that happened,
you.
the stuff that happened with Poltergeist is like the stuff that they talk about in Blair Witch, but it actually really happened.
Yeah, like I said, a lot of crazy
You
things
said the boy
going on.
almost asphyxiated. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I
So,
never even heard that story. That's a new story about some crazy stuff that happened during the filming of that movie. It's
yes,
almost like,
yes.
where were the lawyers? Because it sounded like they didn't care about any kind of safety on that movie.
And from what I understand, Spielberg, realized that was what was happening and transpiring. So he got into that, and stopped that from actually going a step further, and losing his actor, losing Oliver. So, but yeah, like, so many weird accidents and occurrences that have happened on that set, and to knowingly know that history and still want to stay in that house, and surrounding that same location and that same place where that all that transpired. Nah, I'm good. I'm good. So, but if you notice, on the other aspect of this picture, we did have a casting, and that was with Aaron Pierre, cast in DC Studios Lanterns. Just to give you, some background information on that. Let's see here. This was dropped this past Tuesday. This is via the Hollywood Reporter, so I want to be able to give them that credit. As I said, new addition, joining the ranks of Green Lanterns for HBO's hotly anticipated superhero series Lanterns. Following an intense casting process, which narrowed down to Pierre, who you see here, and Stephen James. Pierre was able to secure the part of John Stewart, who, of course, as you guys will know, is a fan favorite among DC Comics' pantheon of iconic superheroes, especially when we're talking about Black superheroes. He's already joining a series that includes Kyle Chandler, who is going to be taking on the role of Hal Jordan. When they described how the feel of the show is going to be, it's been described to have a gritty, true detective type of vibe, and will show the Rebel Ridge star Pierre taking on the role of, as I said, John Stewart, who will be mentoring under Chandler's Hal Jordan, as they both get drawn into a dark Earth-based mystery as they investigate a murder in the American wasteland. Spillman, you hear the news of John Stewart being cast, especially with up and coming rising star Aaron Pierre taking on that part. And what are your impressions?
I'm excited for this. I hope that they don't do what they did with the Green Lantern movie that Ryan Reynolds was in, because that the tone of that movie was off. I think this tone will be a little bit better. I'm interested to see if they go like a good cop, bad cop vibe with him,
Sure.
and guy that's playing Hal Jordan. That'll be an interesting thing to see. I've heard some chirpings online about people complaining about this casting, but I don't agree with it in the same way. I think, he's the guy that they picked. I know that, people have made complaints about what it smacks of, but I don't think that that's it's kind of like you can't satisfy the internet anyway. So we'll see how he performs. I'm not too familiar with his work. I don't watch the show. You said Ruby Ridge was the name of the show?
Rebel Ridge.
Rebel
It was
Ridge.
a film that was on Netflix. It was a
Mm.
Netflix original. I haven't had a chance to see it. I heard got a lot of great things about it. But he actually was also, if you had a chance to see it, I know we were talking about horror films a little earlier. He was in M. Night Shyamalan's Old. He was one of
Mm.
the folks that were stranded on that island, that really
Turns
creepy
people
island
old.
that was turning
Yeah.
people old. Um, but I mean, I don't feel like there was enough from what I recall and what his role was. There wasn't really enough there to really see him in a superhero capacity. But I know Rebel Ridge, from what I at least saw in the trailer, he's taking on that leading man role in an action hero capacity. And as I said, I haven't seen it, but I know a lot of people that have been recommending it because they say that he's.
Yeah. Also, I'm interested because they actually show him in this promo shot in the suit, and that's not something a lot of these shows do.
So I will. I
Usually,
will say this. I will say that this is a Reddit
oh, that's a
creation.
render. That's a
Yes,
render.
a render. It's a pretty good
Ladies and
render.
gentlemen,
It's a pretty
ladies
good
and
render.
gentlemen.
So I'm gonna put it up here. It's a pretty good render. But no, yeah, that's a render that they have of the actor in that, yeah, in the Green Lantern costume, what he might look.
AI, you've done it again. Chat
But
GPT. But no, I take that back then. That's the movie magic of this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. This is a
there you
live
go.
show.
There
Remember
you
that.
go.
It's a live show, baby.
I fooled Mr. Fields, but go ahead.
But no, I was going to say if this is actually how the suits looks, that looks pretty cool. And hopefully the show is not like a long journey into them finally getting the powers like they do on so many of the other shows, like the Batman show, like Gotham. It's
From
a
what I
march to
understand, they
him
already
becoming it.
exist.
Yeah,
They're already Green Lanterns, and he's still a new Green Lantern trying to mentor
yeah.
under the more seasoned Hal Jordan.
I
So
wonder if there'll be a Guy Gardner cameo because he's
yes,
in the Green
yes, he
Lantern.
is in there. Gosh, and Firefly. Nathan Fillion is playing Guy Gardner.
Okay.
Memory serves. Let me confirm now. I want to say he's playing Guy Gardner, but go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I'm just interested to see what they do with this. The Lantern Corps are one of the more written about story elements in the DC universe. It's good to see them finally start to use their actual people in their universe rather than just pumping out Batman movies,
Yeah.
which is okay. Batman movies make money, and who don't like making money? Spillman understands. But
Now,
no,
I can't confirm. He is playing Guy Gardner,
okay,
Nathan
cool.
Fillion from Firefly. So
Yeah, but we'll see. I think it'll be a good show. But again, if they don't take the like, I hate when superhero shows do this, where they spend the whole show about a superhero talking about him becoming the superhero, and it's like I'm not wasting 8 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours on seeing somebody figure out that they Batman. They're like, bro, just bring out Batman. It's supposed to be a Batman show, or bring out Superman. He don't need. He was in high school for more years than you be in high school. That was like a
I hear
summer
you.
show.
I hear
I
you.
just,
I mean, I'll say this: if we're talking about, again, still haven't seen the movie. It's on my to-do list to check out the movie. Um, he looks like he's capable of playing the part. Um, we're talking about what you're saying, and I feel like that is a good point that you bring up. That a lot of us are tired of the stereotypical or the standard origin story that we so often see in superhero films and or series, whatever it is, whatever medium it is. And so, from what I understand, the way they're explaining it, as I said, is that they've already kind of crossed that threshold of becoming the superhero. Is just developing them more into that role of, I guess, them being in him being in his early years as that character, and some of our other characters already existing in the world. Because I think since this is going to play a role into the DC Studios universe, that we have with the Superman film that will soon come out, and some of the other films that are on the way. Um, Many of them, all these characters already exist. And then they're still in their early stages of their careers, but at least we don't have to, as you said, have to deal with them getting those powers. They already have them at this point when we're introduced to them, which is I feel a good way to start with your superhero universe, because I feel
I like
audiences.
year one stuff. I just don't want year zero stuff. Year zero
I'm
stuff gets
saying
on my nerves. Like I understand what you're saying, but to me, year one's fine. Like I want to see you with the powers. I don't want to see you like struggling to do math tests and stuff. Don't nobody care about no superhero that's struggling to do math or not paying his bills. We want to see you do the super stuff. Like you could be managing that stuff while you're a superhero, but just to show about a regular dude, that's boring.
for sure. Sure, I agree. But what do you guys think? Those of you that are out there watching, whether you're watching us live or watching it after the fact, what do you guys think of Pierre? Being cast as Jon Stewart, and do you have any thoughts on the casting? You can let us know in the comments. All right, so we're gonna hop into our next story, and this is unfortunate news surrounding someone who passed away, unfortunately, over the course of this week. And it was reported over this week, but it actually happened, from what I understand, last Sunday. And this is surrounding Doc Harris passing away at 76. If you're not familiar with that name, you should be, especially if you are a fan of anime. The Canadian voice actor is well known as being the narrator of Dragon Ball Z. Originally born as Gilbert, and I apologize if I'm butchering your last name. So Gilbert Auchinleck. He boasted an expansive career in Canadian radio, and would eventually change his name to Doc Harris back in 1976. Of course, as I said, many folks recognize him in Dragon Ball Z for his deep, distinctive voice, who, was the ultimate hype man when it came to narrating recaps and intros and outros for episodes. He's voiced more than 200 episodes of the, popular animated series from, the late 90s to the early 2000s. Spillman, you hear about Doc Harris, and what are your thoughts?
On the next episode of Dragon Ball Z, that's all I can say. But
Right?
like, oh my gosh. Doc Harris is up there. It's like him, Michael Buffer. I can't think of too many more announcers or narrators from stuff like him, Michael Buffer and boxing, Morgan Freeman, obviously. But like, who else is a narrator like that? I
We have
that's
a we have
I
a lot of we have
I
a
just
lot of
can't.
we have some actors out there that are, as you name drop some of them that are iconic, have iconic voices. I mean, we could talk about you already dropped what's his name, Morgan Freeman. I mean, I
Morgan
could I
Freeman.
could say Keith David, iconic
Oh, Keith
voice.
David. Yeah.
We could talk about
But
Patrick
he's not really
Stewart.
a narrator. Like,
Mm,
also, not really. It's not too
mm.
many narration things. The other ones I just popped to my head, the dude that does all the animal stuff from England, what's his
Oh
name?
yeah,
He's a
yeah, yeah,
big
yeah.
one.
I know what you're
And
talking
then
about. I'm brain
and
farting
then
right
the
now, but yeah,
the
yeah.
cowboy guy that narrated the Big Lebowski.
I know who you're
Um,
talking about. I'm
those
brain
two
farting.
are I feel like those are the top five narrators. I can't think of anybody else that does narration that's like up there like that. But like, I just uh, 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 in the top five or top 10. I put him in top five, but that's because I'm a big Dragon Ball fan.
I'm
But
just saying. I mean, like he was the ultimate hype man. Like previously on Dragon Ball Z,
previously, Dragon Ball
last
Z.
time on Dragon Ball Z. But man,
Cell
like
was captured by Frieza. Goku made a spectacular transformation.
right, exactly, man. Like he would get you hyped for that next episode. You're like, oh man, I got to be here next week to see what's going to go down. And that's saying something, by the way, because if people know that Dragon Ball Z, pre Dragon Ball Z Kai, we had a lot of buffer. We had a lot of buffer with those sagas, and so kudos to folks like Doc Harris who kept us watching despite the fact that there was so much buffer in a lot of those sagas where you would have, and my fellow Dragon Ball Z fans though, you have a couple 5, 6 episodes where the characters are just talking the whole time. It is talking trash. They haven't even fought yet. Well, they'll fight for like 1 second and they still talking about using 1% of my overall power. Should I use 20%? I'm like, bro, come on. Like,
Get to
like,
fighting.
like can we speed this up? I'm gonna breathe the song.
That's the worst one. I
Breathe the
thought the
song.
worst one was when Goku had to go get his driver's license. You remember that episode?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's a terrible filler episode. I was like, what are y'all doing here?
yeah. Nah, we have some sagas in there that they just drag, man, and I'm thankful for Kai where you were able to kind of speed that up. But like I said, free the saga. There was definitely some episodes and some story arcs that dragged. As much as we love them, we dragged in that original iteration of them.
But as a big One Piece fan, I'm not going to poo-poo filler episodes because it's part of the genre. You got to have the filler episodes because you know they had a crossover episode with Dragon Ball and One Piece for a filler episode. So you got to fill
Okay,
it sometimes.
fair,
You got to fill it
fair,
sometimes.
fair, fair.
Sometimes they be cool. But yeah, shout outs to Doc Harris, man. Like I said, top five. I can't think of too many narrators that are like, man. Oh, I forgot Tilda Swinton on the Lord of the Rings. That joke was epic. She was epic as a narrator of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, but she still has to do more. Don't get me wrong; she's a terrific actress. She's a terrific actress. But
As a narrator,
when we're talking
yeah,
about voice actors and like how expansive and all the stuff that they've done over the years, she's still pretty new to the game.
yeah, for
When we
sure.
talk about voice acting, so um, but again, like I said, no slight to her because she's an outstanding actress in terms of what she's done. In front of the camera.
And she narrated the Lord of the Rings, which
Yeah,
perfect
yeah,
narration in
yeah.
that.
So, but what do you guys think? Let us know. What your thoughts on the passing of Doc Harris, as I said, legendary narrator of Dragon Ball Z, passing away at 76. So, I want to dive into our main topic, which is going into the world of sports, and we have a couple of ones that we're gonna talk about. We have a couple of retirements that happened, and then we also have talk of Mr. LBJ, Mr. LeBron James, and
LBJJ.
yeah, LBJJ, Bronny
LBJJ.
Jr. I like that. Okay. So I'll put that up here. You guys see it up here in our main background, and I've been meaning to put up Bronny up there as well, but there's no need to put a picture. I feel of Bronny James or LeBron James. Their pictures
Do
are
y'all know
everywhere.
the hate and
Y'all know what he
bias?
looks.
Do
Y'all
y'all
know what
know
they look
the
like.
hate and bias?
Y'all know what they look like. Hey, am I biased? I got a Laker up here, but okay.
He also won with the Warriors, didn't
We're
he?
gonna get to that. We're gonna get
Oh,
to
okay.
this whole body of
Okay.
work. But as I said, our main topic is talking about the world of sports, and we're gonna start first with a historical moment regardless of where you fall on the player, that being LeBron James, aka LBJJ, as Spills referenced him as. He shared the floor as an NBA player with his father, LeBron James, last Sunday in a preseason game. Though he finished with 0 points and 4 turnovers, it still marked the first time in the NBA that a father and son shared the court as teammates. And also, and this is, shout out to LBJJ too, so Bronny James, it was also his birthday that day. Spillman, as a diehard fan of the Lakers, where do you stand on his historic moment in NBA history, on this moment in NBA history, and where do you stand on Bronny's progress thus far as it stands?
Well, considering Bronny was drafted number 52, right? He was 52.
55, I believe.
I'm sorry,
I'll
55.
confirm that, but I want to
I
say
thought it was
55.
52. I thought it was 52. That stuck out of my head. But As someone who was the 55th pick or 52nd pick, it is what it is. Um, if you don't score a lot as that pick, that's not surprising. Generally, if his name wasn't Bronny James, LBJJ, as I am coining today, you wouldn't even know who the 55 pick was. I've never known a 55th or 52nd pick ever.
Yes, it is 55th, but go ahead.
But I've never seen a 55th pick. And you don't know any 55 picks in the NBA. There's lots in MLB, there's lots in the NFL. But the talent pool in the NBA is so small that generally, if you're the 55th pick player, even though it's a high honor to ever be a draft pick in the NBA, generally you're not going to make it. That's just how it is. So I'm happy for that. I actually had this argument with my family last night. We had a big conversation about this because we all got together for my son's birthday. So we were all talking, and it was actually kind of a 50-50 split. People thought that it was too much. LeBron should, like some family members were saying, LeBron should quit. He should let his son do that. I remember my brother saying that's weird that LeBron is going to be there with Bronny while they're on like trips and stuff. And I had to explain to my brother. I said, "Do you think that LeBron is still hanging out with the rookies on trips last year? Because he definitely wasn't doing that. LeBron don't hang out with the rookies. Maybe he might pop out, but I don't believe that they hanging out with LeBron. I feel like LeBron, he's too on his regimen to even worry about that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I'm happy to see that the Lakers are a class organization and would allow a player of LeBron's stature to enjoy something like this. You know, I just think that it's crazy that LeBron is still at a level where he's still in the NBA. Let's be honest about that. That's generally not a thing that happens. So, how do you feel about
Okay, so I'll say this. I do understand what you're saying about, where he stands as a prospect, him being the 55th pick, right? And I do get that. I get that part of it. There aren't a lot of 55th picks that are scoring at the clip of someone who's in the first round, low first round, high first round. But I'm gonna say this. Okay, I'm gonna vent a little bit. My issue, and I'm sure a lot of people's issue, is Bronny is a capable player. I'm not saying that, but what I'm also saying is, like many people, I'm tired of what he's doing in the game. Aside from the historic element, and I want to acknowledge that there is historic. That's awesome of having an NBA player and their son sharing the floor. I can acknowledge and enjoy that historical element of it, but it irritates me to no end of how small, minuscule things, and I've talked to you about this, Bills, small, minuscule things get like blown out of proportion and hyped like to an unnecessary degree where we have players that are scoring, 15 points in a game, and they should be getting the credit for, the highlights and what they are, their impact on the game. And we're getting highlights of Bronny James throwing a regular pass, and we're getting a highlight of it as, oh my gosh, did you see that assist from Bronny James? Or he recovers on a defensive play and gets a block. Okay, congratulations. Like, why is this an overall highlight of the game when you have your teammate who's also a rookie? And I'm speaking of, what is it, Connect? And he scored 15 points in the game, and he barely is getting the acknowledgement of the impact that he's having on the game. Like, I'm afraid of when Bronny actually scores double digits, because people will go out of it like a lot of these sports channels are gonna go out of their minds of, oh my gosh, did you see the 10 points Bronny James scored? I'm like, oh, like, why are we hyping, a couple of baskets or a couple of things that Bronny James is doing? I understand that he's a 55th pick, but at the same time, the amount of attention that's paid to any little small minuscule thing that he manages to do in the game is unnecessary and ridiculous.
Can I ask you a
So
question? Can I ask you a question?
go for it.
How many times have a top round pick scored 15 in a preseason game? Thousands of times, right? Thousands,
Sure,
probably thousands.
sure.
How many times has a father son played in the NBA
Stop,
together?
stop, Sean.
Zero
Stop,
times. That's
Sean.
literally, you're
So,
literally
like I
the
said,
first time in
if
history.
you were
Zero
listening,
times.
you would have heard me say I appreciate, as a fan, the historic
You
element
crazy,
of a
bruh.
father and son. I opened with that, didn't I? Of a father and son sharing the court. But that aside, I have a problem with having a player have minuscule things that they're doing in the game hyped more than what another player is bringing to the game in terms of their impact. So again, I'm really scared of him scoring 10 points. Folks gonna lose their mind. All these ESPN folks, they're gonna lose their mind. Oh my gosh, he scored 10 points. Great.
I just feel like you're not acknowledging how smart of a marketing aspect this is. Look, we talking about the greatest tennis player of all time retired. He retired, the greatest tennis player of all time. And we talking about LeBron and the
He's
Lakers.
up there. He's up there. He's top three. He's up there, but he ain't
He's
the
all time. You can argue he's all
time.
time.
All time
He got
great.
more championships. I
Yeah,
mean,
all
you
time
can
great.
argue,
Yeah,
arguably the GOAT, retired. And we not talking about him first. We talking about Bronny and LeBron because this is an all-time great move. You've never seen nothing like this before.
I'm disappointed in you, Spills. I thought you were gonna
Never
be.
seen nothing like
I,
this
I
before.
thought you were gonna be a little more objective, man.
What's
I'm a little
objective about what I'm
disappointed.
saying? I am being objective. I'm saying if you had if ultimately basketball is a TV show, is it not?
Okay.
Ultimately it's a TV show. And to sell the TV show, you got to do things sometimes to sell the TV show. Sometimes you need to bring in an MVP. Sometimes you need to keep an MVP. And LeBron was up for a new contract this year, and they said, LeBron, you're not going nowhere. We know what you want, and we're going to give you what you want because we are a
Right.
class
He's on the team.
organization.
Okay, but to your point, he's on the team, and he managed to play on the floor with his father. Okay,
He
great.
played 6 minutes. Who
Okay,
cares
great.
about a 55th pick saying 6 minutes? That don't matter.
What I'm
It's about the
saying, when we're talking about
dollars.
the game, and you can tell me if I'm exaggerating about this, because I know I'm not exaggerating. You and I both know I'm not exaggerating about this. Is there are other teammates on that team, other players on that team that are having a bigger impact on that team, and we are highlighting outside of the historic moment with his father sharing the floor for that moment, that minor period of time, we are highlighting minor things that he has done on the court that don't really warrant being highlighted in the game.
Can I ask you a
So
question? Can I ask you a
here we
question?
go. Here we
We
go.
just said, you said minus minuscule things that are not big. The first father and son to play in an NBA game ever in the history of the league. The league been around 75 years. And you saying that's not a big thing.
Yeah, okay. You crossed that T, you got
If
that
it was
check
20,
mark.
like, look, they do this kind of thing all the time. Like, if it's two brothers playing on the same team, you're going to get the highlight package. It might be somebody scoring 35 in that game, but we're going to talk about the two brothers. When Theonis and Giannis was playing, or Thanasis, so I don't know how to say the other brother's name, because he's not good enough to talk about. But you know what I'm saying? Like, what are you talking about, man? We talk about the things that people like to talk about. If somebody was good enough to stay in the league long enough, and their son was good enough to make it, because look, if Michael would have did this, we would have said, "Oh, LeBron is trying to copy Mike." But because he did it first, we kind of poo-poo it. But that's pretty cool.
All right, Spill. So tell me this.
Mm-hmm.
Because as I said, you are a diehard Lakers fan.
Die
And
hard.
their success,
Mm-hmm.
there's so many factors that play into the success of the team.
Mm-hmm.
So let me create a scenario for you, so that way you can see where I'm getting at. If we're talking about team chemistry, if we're talking about how a team does going forward, because team chemistry is important, and we can both agree to that. Because I'm a huge Warriors fan, and we can agree that they had some some issues with team chemistry after what transpired with Jordan between Jordan and what's his name Green. So do you feel like other players are going to feel some type of way that you have this player A, whether he is a star player's son or not, is getting shine on that team. And this is nothing against Bronny because he seems like a decent guy. He seems very down to earth. But I'm just talking about how it's being done by the media, by sports media, by ESPN, and said folks of other team members being jealous of that shine or feeling some type of way about that shine that he is getting on that team, and it affecting the chemistry of that team, which in essence is going to affect any type of aspirations that they have going into the season. It's still in the preseason, but still going into the season and whatever aspirations that they had, you don't feel it's going to have any impact. You think they're going to be good.
I'm gonna answer your question honestly.
Okay.
Do you
I'm all
think
ears.
do you think LeBron would have re-signed with the Lakers if they didn't draft Bronny?
I don't know.
Do you think that without LeBron, the Lakers would be better or worse this year?
They be where they are, same
They
place.
they would be 100% worse. They would be the worst team in the NBA this year without LeBron James on that team. So let's be for real. This was a keep LeBron on the team move. I don't care what it costs to get LeBron. Like you said earlier this summer, you was like LeBron signed for like 165, and I was like it's 168 because Bronny got $3 million too, and that's how much they had to pay LeBron to keep him in that purple and gold. That's all that matters. Like, I don't know why people are like looking at it like this instead of looking at it like that. Like, no, we still got LeBron on the team. He's still a top. Like, I was talking to my family. My uncle said, oh, LeBron is like better than 3/4 of the NBA. LeBron is better than everybody except maybe 5 or 6 other players in the NBA today. Maybe 5 or 6. We can make arguments about the other ones, but you put LeBron on any of them other guys' teams, and usually that team will be just as good, if not better, with LeBron on the team today. Not talking
Okay,
about
Mister.
5 years ago. We talking
Okay,
about
Mister
today.
In Season. Okay, Mister In Season Tournament.
The inaugural in-season tournament. On the Wikipedia page, whose name is first? The Lakers.
Oh boy.
On the
Oh, no
Wikipedia
one cares
page,
about that In
who's the
Season
second
Tournament.
most championships all time?
No
The
one cares.
Lakers. Because we
No one
take
cares
care of
about
our
that In Season
players.
Tournament.
We take care of our players. We win stuff and we take care of our players. That's how you keep a franchise afloat. And the Lakers would be hypocrites if they didn't draft Bronny. Because Jeannie would have the job and her father didn't give her the job. Right?
Oh yeah, you're right. Thank you for
That's
being
him.
objective this time.
That's him. That's him.
Thank you for
That's
the
being the
objectivity
hypocrite.
this time and acknowledging that this time.
I say
So
it with everything. I say, of course, you're supposed to keep people like if people do good by you, you're supposed to do good by people. It was $3 million for Bronny to flame out of the NBA. There have been people paid way more money to do way worse at basketball than Bronny's about to do. Anthony Bennett comes to mind. He got first round draft pick money to never play in the NBA, really. I can't tell you how many games. He probably played 65 games or something like that. And he was the number 1 pick all time. But we're gonna sit up here and try to talk bad about LeBron and them. That's terrible, ladies and gentlemen. And how dare you try to act like Bron would stay on the team if we didn't draft his son, even though we could have. Think about that. So let
I
me
don't
see
know,
what
man.
Lakers feel, man.
I'm just tired of all the pageantry that went into drafting him of the alleged,
This is Kobe
coaching.
2.0, low key. This is Kobe 2.0, low key. Because Kobe was somebody's son too. And all y'all love Kobe.
I'm just
Right?
saying. I'm just
You like
saying.
Kobe. You like Kobe. I know you like Kobe.
Yeah, yeah,
You like the Mamba.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. And
But
he is a baller's son. Why can we draft Kobe but we can't draft Barney? What's the difference?
are we comparing? Are we comparing Kobe to Bronny James?
Rookie year. Rookie year. We're gonna compare the rookie years.
I don't care, rookie year. Are we
It's
comparing
only gonna
Kobe
be.
Bryant to Bronny James?
No, I'm not. I'm talking crazy.
I say, folks, y'all better light him up in the comments. Y'all better light him up. Okay, all right. I was just checking.
No, I'm trolling, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm about to say, but anyway, like, what do you guys think? I mean, I know me and Spill are going back and forth, but what do you guys think? You guys can let us know in the comments. But I want to switch gears to another Laker, as it were, that was announced his retirement. And this is Danny Green, who you see, off to the left there, the left for us anyway. But in speaking of Danny Green. He announced via his YouTube channel this past week that he would be retiring from the game. Now, in retiring, he finishes a career with 1,577 three-pointers, which is 43rd most in NBA history. That makes him one of only 12 players to make that many three-pointers and shoot at least 40% from beyond the arc. He's also ninth in postseason three-pointers with 315. And if that weren't enough, he is also an NCAA champion prior to coming into the NBA, and he's a three-time NBA champion, winning with three different franchises, that being San Antonio in 2014, the Toronto Raptors in 2019, of course, the Los Angeles Lakers in 2020, and he was a starter on all three of these clubs. Smellman, what are your thoughts on hearing about Green's retirement and reflecting on his career?
Um, I'm sad to see Danny Green go. One of the real exemplars of the 3 and D guy that became so popular in the mid and late aughts. The 3 and D guy. You think of guys like Danny Green. You think of guys like really Danny Green is the only one I can really think of on the top of my head. Clay Thompson. I'm sorry, Clay Thompson is the best example of the 3 and D guy. But just a great champion. It's unfortunate to see him, lose, stop playing. But great career. I feel like 3 championships, play 15 years. A respected game. I can't. He beat LeBron in the finals. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Thank you for the objectivity. Appreciate it. Appreciate it,
He
sir.
beat Braun in the finals. I mean, you play like think about that. Low key, that's one of the a great NBA career, a basketball career. He went to North Carolina, arguably the greatest basketball school in the history of the country of the sport. You know,
Yeah.
he beat arguably the greatest player in history in the finals. Then he won a chip with the greatest player in the history of finals, and then he won one of the most improbable finals of all times with Kawhi in them. So to me, that's undefensible career. That's a great career. He may not have been an all-star ever, but as far as NBA careers go, you can't argue with a career like that. I'm sure he's got $150 million in the bank or something crazy like that. Who wouldn't want to live like that? How do you feel about Danny Green?
So I'll say this. I was going, down, of course, down his resume and what he's accomplished. And one word that just comes to mind is, sometimes you just have players that are just winners. Like, they just have that winning pedigree. They may not be, your franchise player, your star player, as you said, but they are a key component, a key role player in your aspirations and winning a title. And as don't get me wrong, as important as it is to have one or two franchise players, probably these days, if you're talking about a title, you need to have 2 to 3. Outside of that, you still are not going to win a championship. You're not going to win a title. You're not going to win multiple titles without key role players. And so, that's what comes to mind when we're talking about Danny Green. As I mentioned, when I was going down his resume, he was a starter on all three of those championship teams. He wasn't the star player, but he was a key component in each of those runs with those three different franchises. and that is in and itself is impressive. It's already difficult in and of itself to win with one franchise, let alone three franchises. Um, we're talking about types of players that he reminds me of. That you just have someone who's just a winner. That regardless of what team they play for, they just have a tendency just to win. Is Robert Ory. Like Robert Ory, he's not a star
A three and D
franchise.
guy.
Yeah,
A
he's
three
not a
and D
star
guy.
franchise player, but Robert Ory has more titles than some franchise players because he just is a winner. He just brings a winning pedigree to those teams that he's played for.
He got
So,
more than Mike.
I'm just saying, like, kudos to Danny Green. It's also impressive of that 3-point percentage because that's not an easy thing to be able to accomplish. Of still being at 40% when it comes to shooting behind the arc. We have some players now that are still have consistently been able to keep that consistency. A lot of you guys saw him in the Olympics with Steph Curry. If you don't know your basketball, but yeah, shout out to Danny Green. Like I said, just a winner, like someone who just tends to win with whatever franchise that that he's a part of. He always brings a level of toughness. As you said, a 3-and-D guy. Someone who can help anchor your defense. We didn't even go into that. He's a solid defender with all the
Losing
team
him and Caldwell Pope and the two centers, Dwight Howard and
that
McGee,
kill
was
job.
low key why
That
the
kill job.
Lakers
Yeah, that kill
stay
job.
competitive.
Yeah, that kill job. Because it gives we all know, I was talking about Bron, a moment ago. He needs shooters. You and I can both agree he needs shooters in order to be successful and to win titles. And you guys haven't really had that the last few years. And I want to say, in the Westbrook era and the other eras that we recently had the last few years. So yeah, that is I feel like I've shared as much as I could about Danny Green, but like I said, ultimate winner. And in terms of his intangibles of what he brought on the defensive end and offensively as a role player, key role player, um, you know, he is definitely someone that I don't know if we're going to see a lot more of going forward in the NBA, where now that it's so focused, it feels like on offense that have players that are capable of being effective at both ends of the floor. Wings that are capable of being effective players. I don't know if you have any last thoughts.
No, just all time career. You can't argue with it. He's probably like he was in the McDonald's game if I remember correctly. So
Yeah,
he was always playing at a high level. Um, you know, just
for sure, for sure. But what do you guys think? When we're talking about Danny Green, do you agree with my assessment of him being, this current, recent generation of being a Robert Ory type of player, just being someone who is a winner and whatever, program franchise that he's a part of, he just brings, that winning pedigree. You can let us, know there in the comments. But I want to get into the last part of what we're going to talk about today, which is, talking in terms of the world of tennis with Rafael Nadal. He, this past Thursday on a um, on social media, he announced that he would be retiring from professional tennis at the end of this year. To be more specific, it will be at the conclusion of the Davis Cup. But if we're talking about Nadal's resume, I say it speaks for itself. 22 Grand Slams, 14 French Open titles. He is, a part of that big three of Nadal, Federer, and Djokovic. And if we're really, talking about, I know we were talking about Spillman of being, the GOAT. I would still put him at number two because he has a losing record to Djokovic, but he has gotten the better of Federer. They played 40 times, and as great as Federer is, they played 40 times. His record against Federer is 24-16. So Federer has a losing record to Nadal all time, in his career. So Spillman, what are your thoughts on Nadal's retirement?
Um, well, I think that when I say we have to argue that he's one of the greatest of all time or the GOAT, unfortunately, I'm going to take the Michael Jordan stance on this, ladies and gentlemen, and say he's got more championships. So, sure, Djokovic beat him a lot more head to head, but, he didn't win as many championships. And that's what counts. Although he was a master at one specific level of the sport, in that he was very dominant on the clay courts. I feel like that may be one of the biggest dominations that have ever happened in competitive sport. That he won so many French Opens on that clay court, which is, um, you know, obviously one of the more difficult surfaces to play on. It's crazy to me that they even play on clay because it seems like something that would, injure people a lot. So to me, I just think that he is, the GOAT because of his titles. So I don't know. We'll see. How do you feel?
I mean, I understand your argument, and I know it's an argument that many people make. It's just that when we're just talking about that overall body of work, that resume, um, he is, it's just fascinating as I was talking about with those three, of Federer, of Nadal, and with
And it's
Djokovic.
only 50-50 between them. It's like 31 and 29. That's 51%, but that's 50-50.
Minuscule. So that's what I'm saying. Like I can understand how the argument could be made that they're neck and neck. It's just when we're talking about all of your contemporaries and the fact that Federer, as great as Federer is, as much as I know we were talking about before of how much traction he gets in the media of what he's accomplished. When it comes to Nadal and when it comes to Djokovic, they both have had his number. Like, don't get me wrong, he has beaten them, but he has a losing record to both of them. And then on top of that, like I said, when we're taking it a step further and comparing now Nadal and Djokovic of what he's managed to do, not just to Federer but also to Nadal, even as small as it may be. So I can understand both arguments, but yeah, I would still by a hair, I would give it to Djokovic.
But also, Nadal is notoriously not a nice person, so I can understand how people don't want to make him the GOAT because you don't
Yeah,
want the GOAT to be a mean guy. Like, that they don't make
it's
those
just
people who
competitiveness. For
yeah,
me, I feel like it's just competitiveness, the ultimate competitor. So, but
he's
yeah, no,
more of a Vegeta than a Goku for sure.
I feel you. I feel you. I feel you. But what about you guys? For those tennis fans out there, do you feel that Federer is the goat? Do you feel that Nadal is the goat, or is Djokovic the goat among that big three? Because I mean that was incredible when all three of them were playing. It just seemed like it was like playing whack a mole between those three players. Of who was winning what. Like they pretty much had like all the prospective awards like on lock. In that era that all three of them were playing. But would love to know what you guys think. That's going to actually wrap up this edition of this week in pop culture. Again, I want to thank Spills for hopping on as always and talking about said topics that we have this week. So Spillman, I'm going to punt it over to you. Can you tell folks where they can find you?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a huge football game this weekend. The Commanders are playing Baltimore, and it actually matters for the first time in anyone's life ever. So you can find me on Truly Spill on Instagram. We can talk about the games, or we can talk about sports, or why the Lakers are a smart organization for keeping the greatest player of all time employed by them. I'm just happy to hear it. So I'm not worried about it. I think that Bronny should be in the league, and we should be happy for him. Let's look at a great franchise that didn't get rid of their, arguably third best player in the history of their organization. But that's just me. That's just me.
All right. So again, I want to thank Spills for hopping on. I am your host, Brandon Choi, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. You can find me at Brandon Choi. Let me put it up here for you guys. Brandon Choi, ENT on X, and also Brandon Choi underscore ENT on Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, and see you soon, guys.
Peace, ladies and
Peace.
gentlemen. Give us some hearts. Give us some hearts. Get them hearts out there. That's right. That's right, ladies and gentlemen.